Hey guys. Awesome. So we'll hang out for about a minute or so, allow people to trickle in. Um, and yeah, we'll get ACH rolled out to you guys this week. Actually, right after this call. Let's see. And sorry if I'm if like during this call I'm not looking at you guys. My screen is down off to the side, so if I'm looking away, that's probably why. Cool. All right. Cool. So what we'll do today, kind of on this call, still want to keep it pretty informal since it's really early on in the beta stage. So you know, if you guys want to chime in at any point in time during the call, like if we're going over something and something's not super clear, just shout it out. But know that after the call, we'll also have a Q&A session, right? So if we didn't cover something during the call and you have a question about it, you know, we'll stick around towards the end to kind of tie up any loose ends. All right. Cool. So let's kind of dive in. So ACH beta, it's been a long time coming for us, and we are pretty pumped that we can finally get this out to you guys. Really, because it's one of the first tangible things that we can put a dollar amount that we know will save you guys money. Obviously, we're just a little bit of work on your side, kind of switching things around from credit card to ACH. But yeah, so you guys are going to be our beta group. So let's kind of dive right in, right? So what I want to do is first kind of define what ACH is. I'm sure all you guys are familiar with this, but it's really just being able to directly debit someone's bank account versus their credit card. There's some pluses and minuses here. The big plus is it's a whole lot cheaper, right? So it's going to be 2 points lower than what you're paying. So right now we have two different push press tiers: push press free, push press pro. So depending on what tier you are, it'll be 2 points lower than that, right? And so no matter what the percentage is, there's always going to be also a $5 cap. So if you're selling big personal training packages of like $1,000 or more, I think after $600 and some odd dollars, you're not paying any extra on top of that in terms of a package amount, right? So that's pretty cool. So if you're some of those gyms that sell huge packages or prepaid or stuff like that, you can save a ton of money on this as well, especially over time. Give me 1 second here. Cool. So we got a few more people trickling in. What's up, guys? So just kind of diving into just the cost structure of our ACH offering, and we really try to drive this thing down as much as possible. So again, for those of you on Pro, Push Press Pro, you guys are going to be paying 0.8%, and that's it, right? Just 0.8%, no transaction fees on top of that, no 30 cents, and then again a $5 cap. So another thing to consider about ACH, and this is kind of the downside, is how long does it take for funds to be deposited to your account? So if you've had experience with ACH, you're probably familiar with this timetable. But with ACH, the big drawback is it's not instant, meaning we can't just send it to the credit card company and them automatically approve the transaction. It takes, on average, at most, it should take no more than about 5 business days once a transaction is put through push press for the bank to confirm it and for Stripe to acknowledge that this is a successful transaction. So there's a couple of things in the background that we had to do in terms of how payments are handled and how plans are handled as well. So there has to be kind of a window where we just say, you know, if you're on ACH, as soon as you put a transaction through, we're going to assume it's good until Stripe comes back and says it's either good or not good. And then from there, you know, we'll modify the plans, either they're active or not, right? And then so after that window of when Stripe confirms that transaction either successful or failed, then it's just back up to your normal deposit schedule. So that's 1 to 2 business days, right? Let's see. So Rudy's asking, how do you know what plan you're on? I'd say most of you guys, if you don't know you're on free, then you're on pro. And just the difference between free and pro is just the cost structure and what you have access to. So yeah, John hit that right on the head. Pro is 139, and what that does, it's basically what we've been offering for the last, I don't know, 4 years, however long we've been around kind of servicing you guys. And the difference between free and pro is one, free comes at a slight premium in terms of the transactions. So you don't pay anything for push press per se, but your transaction fees are 1% higher, and that's just kind of offset. So it's a way that you can utilize push press if your billing revenue doesn't meet a certain threshold. And I can dive a little bit more into that, but really it's meant for gyms who don't need to integrate with other software very easily, and who don't meet a certain threshold in terms of billing volume. Because at some point, if you're paying 1% higher your transaction fees, but you're paying $0 for push press, then at some point that balances out once you start generating, I think it's $14,000 worth of revenue. So once you hit that volume, then push press pro becomes more economic. So there's a whole kind of balance that we're trying to write out, and that's something that we just launched maybe about 2 months ago. Kind of just snuck that in, and it's a way for us to be able to allow business owners who may not be generating as much revenue to utilize push press, and then when it makes sense for them to kind of grow out of that, they can ascend right into push press pro. Cool. So let's see. All right, so we'll kind of dive into just a live demo of how we can set up and configure ACH, and then how you and or your members can start verifying their bank accounts, right? So how do we enable ACH? For now, what we'll do is at the end of this call, for everyone who's on this call, I'll go through and make sure it's enabled for every one of your accounts. So as far as enabling it, you don't need to do anything. After that, it's going to be on you guys to obviously configure things the way you want to, and which we'll dive into here. So let's see. Let me switch this view out. Okay, so we're on my test dashboard here, and once an ACH is enabled, the first thing you'll need to do is go to your app section and hit configure. And so there's a couple things here that we want to take note of. In terms of your configuration settings, there's going to be 2 fees that you can specify, right? And these are if an ACH transaction comes back as failed, there is a fee for that, right? There's a fee that gets passed directly to you, and it's up to you guys on how you want to pass it on to your members. And there's 2 fees that we can define here. Is a fee for a non-sufficient fee with a credit card backup. So that means if their ACH fails, that's still going to alert a fee passed directly onto you guys, in which case you can automatically pass that along to the member, right? But at that point, they have a credit card backed up on the system, then the credit card will be charged. So effectively, there should be no further delay on that. Now, if they don't have a credit card on file, you can charge a larger fee for that, right? Because at that point, you're just kind of sitting on that transaction. Their plan is active. At that point, if it comes back as failed, then the plan will go back to on alert because it wasn't recognized as fully paid. But you can specify different NSF fee for that, right? Now, the way that we have ACH kind of structured is we want to make sure that you guys have just direct control over whether a member has the option to use ACH or not, right? So what we've done in terms of just landing pages, so anything forward facing, you'd have to enable ACH for that plan or not, right? And I'll show you what that looks like, but in this case, we just have a few of these enabled, right? So I have my AAA basic plan, I have my 2-month plan, and I'll show you what that landing page looks like. So I'm already here. So this is one of those plans that was enabled. So the one thing you'll notice here, it still looks pretty much the same. The only difference is this bottom piece. And that's where member will have the opportunity to input their banking information, right? So we've opted away from allowing options on the landing page, because at that point, if you give the option for credit card or ACH, everyone's going to I mean, I put, 99 to 100, everyone's going to go to credit card, right? So we want to make this fixed. A way around this, if you want to offer like credit card or ACH, is just to create two separate plans, one for ACH, one for credit card. But now in terms of the mechanics of how someone would verify their account, and this is the thing that's taken us a while, that took a while for us to be able to push this out, is because we were trying to develop this to make it as simple as possible. When someone fills out this landing page, we wanted to try to make this as instant as possible, right? So what we've done is we've partnered with our integrated Plaid, which is just instant verification. So let's say if I'm filling out this ACH form and I have a bank, let's say I use Chase. Well, now what I can do is I can log right into my Chase account. And so at this point, I don't have to verify funds anymore. The old school way of seeing micro deposits back and forth, and that taking 2 to 3 days, and some back and forth communication. This way, the member would be able to log right in. Let me show you guys what that looks like too. So they'd be able to log in. Obviously, there's a few security things that they would have to jump through in terms of confirming their identity and whatnot. But once they log in, then that bank is technically verified, right? So that's a quick 1-2 verification process. Now, if they don't have ACH, or if they don't have a bank that's recognized by Plaid, maybe they have a smaller credit card or credit union bank, what'll happen now is they'll see a different option. Let's see, back this up a little bit. Exit. Okay, so they'll see this option here, in which case we kind of default to the backup or the old school method of you input your routing number, you input your bank account number, and what this will do is it'll kick off that micro deposit process, right? Let's see. So it'll look, yeah, something like that, right? So that pretty much sums up the landing page process. Again, what we'd want to do is ideally we funnel them into the landing page, and they can use Plaid and log right into their bank if they have any major bank account. If not, then they'll go back through the old school way where they'll input their routing number and bank account number, and then over the course of the next couple of days, they should see some micro deposits where via email they'll be able to confirm those two amounts. Right. Okay, so let's see. Now, how do you use ACH, or how do you enable ACH through the dashboard? So that's a little bit different story. The mechanics are still kind of the same. It's just, we're kind of getting to the end result in slightly different ways. So what you'd first need to do is when you go add a person is you'd want to request a bank account, right? And there's two ways you can do this. Get this instant. This sends out a text to the member. It sends them a text or an email, and it'll walk them through the same process essentially, right? They'll see a page where they can either log into their bank account, or they can verify through adding their routing number and account number, right? If you want to go ahead and do that, or if you already have some of their information in terms of their banking information, you can input this for them. They'd still have to confirm those micro deposits, but at least you can kickstart the first step. So some of you guys who might have a few members who already have ACH, and you have kind of paper documentation or a separate system where you have access to this info, you can go through and add that information in here. Again, the member would still have to confirm those amounts. But now, as soon as that's in the system, so my member here, Daniel Bailey, we know his account is already verified, right? And let me show you what this looks like to verify the account. So I'm going to add another bank account, and I'll just do this manually, so I can do this right now. So I just want to show you what it looks like when they first add it. When it's first been added, you'll see this unverified tag, right? And again, the member also gets an email for this, so they can verify it as soon as they see those micro deposits come in. But if they come to you and tell you what those amounts are, you can go in and input those amounts. And now Now it's verified. Let's see. Perfect. So our bank account here verified, and now we can use it pretty much any way you would use a credit card or any other billing method on file, right? So if I wanted to add appointment credits, I could totally do that. You know, let's see here for 50 bucks, you'll see that I can use bank accounts. So again, if you're selling large personal training packages, this is a really good option. Let's see. All right, so let's go back to the ACH. So now, as far as kind of adding the bank account through the system, now let's kind of talk about how to kind of mass migrate members into ACH or try to convince them into it. We've kind of built this tool that's similar to our migration assistant tool. So if you go to apps and you go to ACH here, you can see kind of a full breakdown of what your adoption rate is, right? So what I would do is maybe communicate to your members first, you know, that, hey, we're making this switch to ACH. You know, you can list out your reasons why, and then select all those guys. And then you can mass send them mail, right? And so again, you can see if that person has been ever requested or not. So you can see the status of that. So you're not kind of bombarding them with a bunch of messages or question marks, did I ever reach out to this person? And then you can also see kind of the breakdown too, which is kind of cool, of what your overall adoption rate is. And then based on what your recurring revenue monthly is, this is what your potential savings are for the year. So just kind of, it brings to light just how much this could save you. So for this fake gym with 250 members, you know, almost $7 grand of savings, it's a good vacation. Let's see. So the last thing here is when you do add a plan on ACH, so let's go back to our test member here. Let's see. Okay, so let's say I add a plan and this member decides they want to pay via ACH. So I'll add a new plan. And the process is still entirely the same. You know, select the plan, whatever it is. This time I'll select bank account and add plan. And so here, preliminarily, this plan will be added as active, right? So we don't want the member to have to wait until that transaction is approved or not approved. We're just gonna assume that it's approved. And then if it comes back as it failed, then that plan will be put into alert, in which case you can try to recover that payment somehow, whether you know, through the system, you can request a new bank account or default back to credit card. But see that plan that we added is already active. And again, once this comes back as active or not, or as successful or not, that'll dictate whether this plan remains active or not. Cool. Let's see. So the last little bit here is really just kind of what we're looking for you guys for. One is just making sure you guys are making an effort to convert some members into ACH. We can't get feedback unless you guys are using it. Two, and this is more, I'll just reach out to you guys individually just to kind of get your thoughts on what the workflow is, what kind of pushback you guys have been receiving, or if there's any ways that you think we can improve the process of ACH. So one thing we're confident in is it works 100%. There's no bugs or glitches with it. The thing that we can help, you know, utilize your guys' help with is just in the adoption. Like, are there ways that we can make the process a little bit easier to allow members to input their information? Are there any tools that you guys need in terms of reporting to kind of bring some data to surface that will help kind of push members to adopt ACH? So those kinds of things, or if there's any specific messaging that you guys are coming across or that you guys are utilizing in terms of like strategies that would help this, right? And that's kind of it. So, you know, we've done a lot of legwork on the backside to make sure this is a solid release for us. And at this point, it's on kind of framing the message to other gym owners and then also to your members on being able to increase adoption for ACH. So with that, any questions, guys?
What's up? How are you?
Oh, good, Mike. How you doing?
Good, good. A couple questions. One, have you guys noticed? I know you guys have been doing some internal testing. Do you have any? You have some gyms live on ACH currently?
Yeah. So all of Push Press employees' gyms, they've been live for about the last 6 weeks. And then we've had a few like really hand-selected gyms on like a even more private beta. There's such thing as a more private beta for the last 2 weeks.
Cool. And then any nuances so far that maybe you didn't mention during the presentation, just to be aware of?
No, not in terms of just the functionality of it, in terms of onboarding members into ACH. So far, there's been nothing on that. I think the thing that we might run into is just the kind of re-educating, especially gym owners, the new way of ACH onboarding. Whereas, 5 years ago, you could just grab someone's routing number and account number and just throw it into some type of bank draft with no verification. Now, there's a lot of things in place, especially as systems get smarter and more secure, that we need some type of verification. So whether it's going to be that automatic login through Plaid from the member standpoint, or the verification through the micro deposits, either of those have to happen. There's no way we can just input someone's routing number and account number and it'd be done. So that was the one little slight pushback that we didn't really anticipate, but at that point, that's kind of out of our hands.
Yeah, that's pretty standard though, I think nowadays with everything. Do you guys know if the Plaid integration ever has to be re-verified at some point down the road in terms of that, or once it's connected, it's connected?
Once it's connected, it's connected, and that's one of the big pros about ACH. There's less movement. It's unless someone cancels their bank account or their bank goes out of business, there's not going to be any need to verify that person's account.
Awesome. Two more questions. Reporting, we have the migration assistant for the reporting to see who's on and activated. Is there any other type of reporting in terms of any of the other metrics that helps you break down like payments via ACH versus payments via credit card?
Yeah, so that's something that we just talked about this past week, is surfacing those reports so you can see what you break down in terms of overall transactions to ACH or to credit card. Right now, that's not a thing. Okay. But so what that'll do is kind of open up where we can see even in more detail, comp payments, discounted payments, ACH, credit card, cash, check.
Awesome. And then last question, are there any, since you have a few gyms that have gone through it, I think something would be valuable for this group since we're kind of the second or third wave. Is there any templates that have been sent out or emails that have been sent out or messages that we could use as a kind of a guideline on how to communicate this? Because I have an idea what I would write, but it'd be nice to start from somebody else that's already gone through this.
Not yet. On the 4 gyms that we've rolled out ACH for outside of push press gyms, what's been successful so far is just communicating to your members, honestly, this is going to save us, a few bucks. We're not a big company. So that, 2% savings or whatever it is, will help us provide, more services, more equipment, whatever it is to you guys. But what I'll work on is developing that kind of template. And I'll put that in a help doc for you guys so you guys can see it. And then it's up to you guys on how you want to rework that document to fit your gym. Cool. Thanks, Mike. All right, so Amanda asked, what is the NSF fee? So that's a fee that's returned by Stripe if the transaction you put through, let's say you try to put it through a $150 transaction, but that member's bank account can't cover that entire amount, then that transaction will be rejected and it will be returned as failed. With that, there's a fee that Stripe will tack on, and that I believe is, I think, $4 for a failed transaction. And you only get hit once with that, right? So like if you attempt someone's transaction over and over again for the same transaction, there'll only be one NSF fee, right? No matter how many times you reattempt it. But that gets passed directly onto you. So it's important to go back through in the ACH configuration settings to make sure you have those NSF settings specified, right? If that's a $0 amount, that just means you're going to get hit with that entire amount and not be able to recover it elsewhere, at least automatically. Obviously, you'll be able to charge a member through any other method, creating a new invoice and that kind of stuff. But what we want to be able to do is take some of that work away from you guys and allow the system to automate some of this.
All right, so hey, I have a question. I want to make sure that I understand that. I see the benefit here, obviously, with saving 10 to 15,000 bucks annually. But what about the heartburn factor of this? I mean, failed transactions happen more frequently, with the debit card that we have available now versus credit cards. And if you're telling me that, like if we're set to try the transaction again 24 hours later, and we could be potentially racking up 12 bucks at a time that we eat every single time. Is that what these other gyms have experienced so far?
And that's
what your experience is like. What are the watch outs and the pitfalls?
So far, there hasn't been enough, runway or experience to see a lot of failed transactions. I haven't seen anything coming through the system yet. So in terms of other gyms just rolling this out, they've only had successes with it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a pro and con for you, right? Is the 2% savings worth the potential headache and fees? And again, you can pass the fees along, but that doesn't eliminate the headache piece, right? Of having to explain that to your member or trying to recover a different payment method, those kinds of things. So there's some pluses and minuses here.
Will that credit card backup prevent a lot of that? I mean, is that the hot ticket of how we should be doing this? Yeah.
So the thing is, it won't prevent the NSF fee, but it'll prevent the headache from you having to recapture the payment some other way, right? Because if the ACH method fails and they have a credit card backup, then it'll automatically default to that credit card. So you'd be able to realize that transaction immediately. The problem is only when there is no other option other than ACH. Let's see. So are there any benefits to the clients for this? From a client standpoint, not much. Personally, I'm pretty hesitant to hand over my direct banking information versus credit card because there's so many security features with credit cards and whatnot. So it's really just kind of being able to sell it to your clients, on the pros and cons, or the pros for your business for this. From the client standpoint, there's really no difference if they're okay with the level of security from ACH or direct bank drafting versus credit card. If they're good with that, there's no drawbacks to it. You might lose the points in your credit card. Let's see. So Rudy asks, so whatever we charge the member will be passed on onto the next transaction. So that's going to be passed on. It's going to be tacked onto that same transaction. So if the transaction you put forward is $100 and that fails, that invoice now is going to be $105, whatever it is. And that'll be charged to the member's backup information, or it'll stay as an open invoice for you to try to reattempt if you're going to recollect via cash or check or another bank account. Cool. Thanks, Chris. So I'll enable that for you guys. Okay. So any other questions, guys?
As far as the microtransactions, how quickly will they be able to see those come through for us to verify on the dashboard?
It should be within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay. So it'd be something, if we set it up on the dashboard, they'd have to come back the next day.
Yeah.
and
again,
verify that for us.
And again, they'll be able to do this via email as well. So they have direct access to be able to verify. So once they submit their banking information, they receive an email saying, hey, you have an unverified account. Here's a link to verify. So,
okay. So there's
they
the
wouldn't,
headache of them coming back to us all
right,
the time to get that set up.
right. You're always going to have your headache members, but we try to give them as many tools to be able to handle this on their own.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's still on the call, but just for y'all, if you wanted to implement it, we keep 2 copies of everybody's payment information. When they hand me one credit card, I tell them, okay, you can have this one back as soon as you give me the next one in case this one fails. So yeah, that's definitely something you guys think about for ACH is we keep 2, and it's a simple. Most people don't complain about it.
Nice. We'll have to figure out if we can kind of work that in. But so yeah, now at this point, every member will be able to store at least 2 different billing methods, ACH and credit card. Yeah.
I have another question. So if they're set up on ACH, the payment fails, it hits the credit card to bill it, and then what happens month 2? Does it go back to try ACH again, or
no? The default will remain on credit card until that gets switched back.
We would have to go manually switch that back.
Yeah, and that's no harder than switching the billing method on the file. So since they already have a bank account, if that's back in good standing, it's just going back to the member's plan settings and switching the billing information. There's no need to re-verify or do anything like that. Let's see. Amanda, can a member do that via their app? No, not right now. That's the plan. But we wanted to make sure we kind of roll this out without having to tap our app developers at the same time. That would just delay this even longer than it's already been delayed. Switching back to default payment. So essentially they'd have 2 default payment methods. It'd be both ACH, and if they have credit card, it'd be credit card as well. So the default would be based on whatever plan settings they have. Right, if they sign up for this particular plan with ACH, that's going to be the default for that. The credit card would act as a backup, not necessarily a default. Yeah, and switching back to ACH would be the same. As long as that account number hasn't changed, it'd be just as simple as just swapping it out in the dashboard.
Can you give some insight, like as far as security features? There's all the stuff with the credit cards and debit cards. The verbiage, I guess we could tell our members of this is just as secure as far as like on stripes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can get you more documentation on that, but that's where the micro deposits come in, and then that's where the login and the extra account verification step. So when they go through Plaid, they input their login information for whatever bank they're associated with. And then that sends via whatever contact information they have in that bank account. So in this case, my example, I was using Chase. Whatever my contact information is in Chase, it'll send a verification code either through email and or through text. So there's a couple steps of verifying that this account is valid. Outside of that, it still meets all of Stripe's requirements. But yeah, I can get you more information if you want on the security features that they've enacted to protect your users.
Yeah, just something. So we're throwing the right verbiage out there of, hey, it's just as safe, just as secure as your credit card or debit card or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also what we can do is just throw some numbers at it. It's one of the reasons why Stripe has been such a good partner with us is because they haven't had any breaches that I'm aware of. And so, in terms of security from the system standpoint, they're a rock solid partner.
Cool.
Sweet, guys. Cool. So if there's no further questions, what I'll do as soon as we hop off this call is I'm going to send you an email with the help documentations that we have so far in terms of just how to manage the ACH, how to enable things, some basic best practices kind of thing. And I'll make sure ACH is also enabled for every one of your accounts. Outside of that, just keep me posted on what you guys are going through. Feedback in terms of what you guys think, any ways we can increase adoption, any tools you guys think might be more beneficial to increase adoption or just, decrease the barrier to entry for your members. So always open to that. And again, if you guys have any really creative ways to to entice members into ACH, all ears on that too. And you'll get full credit. You know, we'll throw this out there. This was, this is Mike's idea. That kind of thing. All right. All right, guys. So okay, I'm glad we can cross this off the list. I'll confirm with you guys once all of your accounts are enabled with ACH, and then look for that email from me. Outside of that, you know, my phone's always open, my email inbox, all that good stuff. Just give me a shout. All right, guys.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.